Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Thursday, November 6th, 2025. Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson joins us now. Colonel Larry, a pleasure, my dear friend. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for accommodating my schedule. Was Dick Cheney a war criminal?
Yes, no question about it. So was George W. Bush. Matter of fact, as I said to one interviewer this morning, so was I. But I'm so low down the chain, we don't ever do accountability in the empire. They'd probably never get to me.
Well, they'd have to come through me to get to you because of my feeling about you. But why is it that you say, I once got in a heated argument, there was just the two of us and he was my boss, with Roger Ailes over whether George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were war criminals. Of course, I made the argument that they were. At this time, they were in office. He wouldn't concede an inch and eventually conceded just a little bit. But why do you say that former President George W. Bush and now late former Vice President Dick Cheney were war criminals?
There are a number of reasons. The first and foremost one in my mind is a war of aggression, which Kofi Annan, then the UN Secretary General, said about the invasion of Iraq in 2003. It was a war crime. And I agreed with him. We did not have a resolution. We got the first resolution, 1441, on November the 8th, the year before. Powell was ecstatic about it. We sent Hans Blix back, and we thought everything would be copacetic. Dick Cheney went and gave his speech, which no one saw before he gave it. No one, not the president, not Powell, not anyone saw the speech before he gave it. He declared the inspectors going back into Iraq as a dumb act, a stupid act. They would not prove a thing. Everything fell apart. Dominique de Villepin got Powell at the UN and told him that he, the French, and the Russians would veto. So we had to withdraw the second resolution. And therefore, we went to war without a resolution from the United Nations authorizing the war. Not that that would have made it any better, really, but it would at least made it in vogue with international law at the time legal. It was illegal.
Did George W. Bush and Dick Cheney know that there was no valid, legitimate, legal, military, or moral basis for the war, that it was all made up?
That's a question I can't answer because I'd have to get into Dick's head. And though I at times thought I was there occasionally, I can't say that categorically. And Bush was so inexperienced. He was like a country bumpkin in the White House. I know people think that's derogatory of the president. So what? He was a country bumpkin come to Washington. And he was confronted with one of the most experienced bureaucratic intramurals in the history of the post-World War II era in America, Dick Cheney. The guy had been everything from a 34-year-old White House chief of staff, conspiring with the Secretary of Defense, or with actually the Donald Rumsfeld to get rid of the Secretary of Defense, James Schlesinger. Read the Wikipedia article about that. It doesn't tell the truth. They orchestrated James Schlesinger's departure from the Pentagon so Donald could become Secretary of Defense. So he knew everything. He knew where all the skeletons were. He knew how to manipulate the bureaucracy. He was, Richard Haas called him a bureaucratic entrepreneur par excellence, and he was that par excellence.
And then he became fabulously rich at Halliburton.
$71 million.
Wow. And what did caused Halliburton's numbers to do so well? They began selling to the Defense Department that he once ran.
Kellogg, Brown and Root, their subsidiary at the time, and Halliburton made $44 billion off the two theaters of war, Afghanistan and Iraq.
Wow.
And he put his stuff in a blind trust and had the gumption to come out and say, I won't benefit from that because it's in a blind trust. Well, you idiot, when you get out and the blind trust turns over its holdings to you, you have benefited from that rise. It was about 15 million when it started, 71 million when it finished.
Wow. Was he also responsible for or instrumental in propagating torture? And I think he coined the phrase enhanced interrogation.
Yes. And he was one of the strident people in the National Security Council meeting when Powell brought forth his lawyer, Will Taft, who himself had been a deputy secretary of defense, famous political name there, William Howard Taft IV.
But obviously related to the other Tafts, to the president, the chief justice, and the senator from Ohio.
Yes, all the way through there. And Secretary of Defense, Deputy Secretary of Defense himself, and now Powell's lawyer. And when we went over on 28 January, I think it was, because it was my birthday, to talk about abandoning the Geneva Conventions and things like illegal combatants and terminology that had never been heard before. And we put our case forward, and Cheney was one of the most strident people about that's not persuasive. We need a whole new regime, and we're going to develop that regime. And then they turned to the AG, who was already alerted, and John Yoo in particular, but others in that group, like Cheney's own right-hand man. And they developed this idea that, okay, we're going to have a physician, God bless that physician, Hippocratic oath dude, beside the torture bed, as it were. And if it gets to death, it'll be torture, but only if it gets to death. So what do you do? What do you do if you're the physician? Stop, you're torturing now. Oh, died.
Wow. Was the president there for these conversations?
Part of them. Yes. Condi was there most of the time, the National Security Advisor, Dr. Rice.
Was she a war criminal also? You're talking of Condoleezza Rice.
Right.
Is she a war criminal?
Yes. As I said, if you want to come down to all the political appointees, you have to, reach right down and get me too. And I'm doubly guilty because I put the damn presentation together for the UN in February 2003.
Did Cheney lead Bush around on these issues? Did he dominate him, recognizing that Bush was a country bumpkin and he was an experienced bureaucrat?
More so because he recognized Bush was a cowboy. And I mean cowboy in the sense that we use that term derisively to describe someone speeding on the highway or whatever. He was a cowboy. Powell put it this way in a metaphor to me. He came back from a national security meeting. He said, I got a problem. LW, I got a problem. I said, what's your problem? He said, Cheney knows how to get Bush to pull out his 6-shooter and start shooting, and I don't know how to get him to put it back in the holster.
Is the United States enforcing the Kushner-Witkoff-Trump so-called ceasefire agreement in Gaza?
Trying to, but they're failing majorly. They even just had, you may have seen it, the foreign minister from Bahrain in the IISS-sponsored conference there in Manama. He came out and blatantly said, the cause of instability in this region is Israel. Now, you got to open the parentheses after that and say, sponsored by the United States, close parentheses. This is a fracturing of everything we're trying to do with regard to the Arab states. Whether it'll mean anything or not is another matter altogether, but it does mean that they are now saying, screw your deal. You will never come back to the Abraham Accords. You will never come back to comity with us because we know you have, through this plan, no prayer of establishing any kind of meaningful Palestinian state. So we're done with you.
Who is this that you are mouthing that is saying we're done with you?
Well, this is the foreign minister of Bahrain. And
is Bahrain part of the Abraham Accords? I think they are.
Yeah, and they're part of the GCC, more importantly. And in essence, he's saying what everyone has been speculating about. We have affected a somewhat rapprochement with Iran, and we are again the one country in the region that we feel is our true enemy, and that country is Israel.
Wow. Are Israel and the United States getting ready to attack Iran?
I think so, but it's a new strategy now. Here's the strategy. Netanyahu has told Donald Trump and probably other members of administration, Marco Rubio principally, that he is going to take care of Lebanon. He's preparing for that right now. He's going to take care of Hezbollah, but he's really talking about taking care of Lebanon and ending it as ever to be a competitor for Israel in the Eastern Mediterranean. And you, Donald, will take care of Iran, because I can't do everything, hold off Hamas in Gaza, occupy the West Bank to the point of annexation, and go into Syria and do a little bit, and also take out Hezbollah and occupy Lebanon. I can't do all that, so you have to do Iran. So we've got a deal going here, and it's going to be like the deal we did with Iran with the bombing of the nuclear sites, and it's going to be just as shall we say, surprising for Iran, because it's going to be in the middle of what is going to look like a beleaguered Israel and a bastardized, whatever it is right now, ceasefire. It isn't a ceasefire, that's for sure. They're killing people at a rate that matches the worst days of the actual war in Gaza.
So the ceasefire, I'm doing air quotes around it, was a scam to trick Hamas into surrendering its only leverage, which was the living hostages.
To a degree, but they haven't fallen for that completely. They haven't fallen for it completely, because they.
What do you mean, Colonel?
They still have leverage, and the leverage is the fact that they're fierce fighters and that they're still armed to the teeth with the kind of weaponry that they need, both improvised and actual small arms, to take on the IDF. Make their suicide rate go higher than it is. It's already off the charts, 274, I think now. Think about that, 274 suicides, and their post-traumatic stress is off the charts also. And the ranks are thinning because people aren't showing up for their duty, particularly for their reservists, and right. they're not limited.
You're better at math than I am, but 274 suicides in a military their size. Can you even imagine what that would be extrapolated out to our million-man army?
Well, it'd probably be something close to ours, because ours is astronomical too, and that's another matter altogether. But we have the highest suicide rate we've ever had in the United States military.
Wow!
And it has a lot to do with how we've treated them. You know, we have 40,000 plus homeless veterans. They're on the street. They're sleeping with newspapers.
If the United States attacks Iran, surely Iran will attack Israel.
I don't think that's the way to put it. If the United States attacks Iran, the United States will be in jeopardy of losing the empire much faster than it already was. Let's put it that way.
I know what you mean by the empire, but how would the United States lose it as a consequence, or faster as a consequence of attacking Iran?
Because you can't do it, as we've proven time and time again, without ground forces. You just can't. And so you either look like a feckless fool bombing the heck out of 90 million people who are getting tighter and tighter amongst themselves every day that you're bombing, and are really angry with you and angry with everything you're doing. You can't stop them from doing what they're doing, or doing worse than what they're doing, by bombing. So you're going to have to invade, and you're going to have to go after them tooth and nail. And when we do that, we're finished.
Colonel, is the United States of America about to invade? Now, we could fill in the blank, but I'm going to fill it in with a word that most Americans don't even know where this is. Nigeria?
Yeah.
What the hell is our security interest in Nigeria?
I heard those remarks. He's done it now. He's gone off the deep end. There was a cartoon the other day, didn't even have a caption on it. It showed a pipeline, Royal Dutch Shell pipeline in Nigeria. The pipeline was broken like they usually do. The natives go in there and they cut a hole in it and they steal oil out of it. And instead of oil being in it, there was gold coins, just piles of gold coins, and there was Donald Trump with a bucket. That's their appreciation of what Donald Trump means about invading Nigeria.
I'm going to play a clip of the president threatening to invade Nigeria. He uses very, shall we say, cowboy-like language, including the phrase I've never heard even out of George W.'s mouth, guns a-blazing, literally. I'd like you to tell me what you think of it and what the military people who may have to enforce this nonsense are likely to think of it. This is crazy. Chris, cut number one.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns are blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. These are cherished people. These are great people. Leave them alone. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay.
That's probably the most impolitic set of remarks I've ever heard an American president say. And believe me, I've heard some impolitic remarks. Now, let's just face the fact, one, that in Damascus, the big guy there is killing Christians too. And that was so blatantly political, and political address to the Christian nationalists who are very much a part of the MAGA base, that one wonders why he's saying that other than that purpose. But if he's saying it for the purpose of invading a country of almost 300 million people, each one of whom will become a warrior, a guerrilla, like the likes of which we've probably never seen before, against us, should we invade that country, he's insane. He's totally insane.
What is the population of Nigeria?
Close to 300 million. I was looking at it the other day. They're getting close to us. It's about 285, 287, something like that.
Wow.
And it'd be 300 already if so many of them weren't in this country.
But if murdering or invading a country can be based on the fact that Christians are being killed in the country, why is he hosting Al-Jawlani in the Oval Office on Monday, Colonel?
That's what I just said. He's killing Christians too. Perhaps not to the rate that others are, but he is. That's his one weak point right now, in my view, that he has not covered over very well. He started it in the campaign, and he's still doing it, as I understand it. I don't have any prima facie evidence in front of my face, but I have a lot of people in Damascus, Aleppo, and other places that are telling me that he is. And they're people who welcomed what he did initially with open arms because they were so sick of Bashar al-Assad and his killing squads and the prisons in particular. They welcomed him with open arms, and now they are person by person, individual by individual, telling me different stories about what he's doing.
Wow. Is the United States preparing to invade Venezuela?
Geez, Judge, have you got another one you want to throw out?
That's a long list.
I know. I have to think that this is all a show of force to try and bring about an opposition which is not very powerful. Juan Guaido didn't do it. Now Machado is not going to do it. The opposition simply is not powerful enough. And too many people in Venezuela are sick and tired of Los Estados Unidos, the United States, sick and tired of us threatening their governments, whether they like them or not. So they're not going to coalesce in an opposition and join a CIA or other effort to overthrow Maduro. They're going to oppose it. So this is a show of force that's going to embarrass the president, I think. And I hope it doesn't embarrass him so much so that he actually goes ahead and executes something, because I think, again, we'd have another disaster on our hands.
Well, I forgot to play this for you when we were talking about Israel. But the Israelis, of course, are utilizing American assets, American acolytes, to spread their word and to attack other Americans who disagree with the Netanyahu regime. Here's one of them, cut number 5.
Tucker Carlson has turned himself into a conspiracist and a crank and a pathological liar. Tucker excuses Vladimir Putin's murderous and barbarous reign. He has even become one of his most ardent defenders. Tucker Carlson has attacked President Trump as a cover-up artist for sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein on behalf of Israel and Mossad, because, of course, Tucker's a coward. Tucker Carlson has stated that President Trump has undermined America First and MAGA by attacking Iran, giving in to neocon ghouls like Mark Levin. Tucker Carlson acts as an ideological launderer for other people's evils. He's a master of gaslighting. Tucker Carlson will have on a Hitler-friendly pseudo-historian to minimize the Holocaust and blame Winston Churchill for World War II. And he will call him America's best and most honest historian.
I thought Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War.
Tucker Carlson will have on over and over a pro-Chinese propagandist who used global warming to promote global socialism, all in order to criticize Israel and hug China.
Israel has run American foreign policy in the Middle East for 30 years. That's how it works. This is actually the truth. If we drop our angst on big bad Russia, big bad China, which is also not going to invade the United States, they're not a threat to the United States, honestly, and Iran is not a threat.
Tucker Carlson, of course, brings on pro-Hamas voices episode after episode after episode. The instances are almost limitless. America needs a robust conservative organization based on principle and ideas, not personal loyalty to bad actors like Tucker Carlson.
Ben Shapiro has been self-destructing now for about 6 weeks.
Yeah, so has Mark Levin. If you have the stomach, we'll play that for you. But the point is, these two fellas are so furthering the MAGA divide, and they're losing the battle. The young people have had enough of the slaughter in Gaza. There's no question about it. Here's Charlie Kirk shortly before he died on the political effects of what the government is doing, the domestic political effects. Chris, number 13.
The rise of Mamdani should be it's a coming attraction of what is coming next.
Who's Mamdani?
Zohran Mamdani, the Muslim communist that is running for mayor in New York City. Not everyone, but most people are missing the point of really what this is. This is yet another distress signal by young people to say, hey, if you're not going to fix our life economically, we're going to get very radical politically. Now, let's take a step back. President Trump won the youth vote in many states across the country, in many battleground states. One of the reasons he was able to win younger voters and younger men, especially in big numbers, is that they were trying to get their leaders' attention. They said, hey, this guy, Donald Trump, he is pledging to go fix our economic anxiety. He is loud. He is going to get your attention. Donald Trump was a distress signal by a lot of young people, especially young men, that were stuck in a credit-centric renter economy. And again, this is what is the rise of Mamdani. It's just another iteration of this, only from the left.
Pretty smart words, actually.
Yes, very smart words. I had never, not by design, I had just never heard that level of political analysis from him. But young people are demanding a change, even if it's a change to the hard left, like happened in New York here. 85% of people under the age of 30 in New York City voted for this fellow.
Yep. And
there are libertarians in that group just because they're sick and tired of the establishment.
Exactly. He was right on, spot on with regard to that. And the promise of Trump was significant in that regard. It even attracted yours truly in certain respects, especially I didn't like the Iraq war and the economy sucks respect, but he hasn't done anything. And that's particularly exemplified by the situation in Gaza.
Yeah.
By the way, Nigeria has about 240 million. I was a little bit off.
But Colonel, it's an eye opener to me. I had no idea it was that large. Do they have a military? Would there be resistance?
They
if
do.
You show up with guns ablaze. How can you use a phrase like that and expect your military guys to respect you?
Yeah. When we met with Sani Abacha, who was the dictator at the time, and then the leader of the Nigerian military, I got to meet quite a few of their military. They weren't very savory characters, but I wouldn't want to meet them in a dark alley.
Wow. Was Netanyahu behind the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin?
Yes, absolutely. All you have to do is look at the video made by a Jewish documentary team where they used about half the video associated with the Times. In other words, the documentary is roughly 30 to 40% actual video of the actual Times. And what they concentrate on are the political rallies that Netanyahu held and led down the streets, if you will. And what you see is a environment being created that you know damn well is going to lead to some drastic, horrible action. And then they show you the actual scene and the film of the assassination. It's not hard to connect the two. Wow. By the way, that documentary has been banned in Israel, and they managed to get it out of HBO's hands and not shown in America.
Wait a minute, banned in Israel. According to J.D. Vance, Israel is a democracy.
Oh, yes, right. Funny democracy.
Yes, when I say that to Jeff Sachs or John Mearsheimer, of course, they recoil and they realize I'm being sarcastic. Colonel, it's a pleasure. We've been all over the place, but I appreciate you letting me take you all over the place, and you're a wealth of knowledge and, as always, a backbone of steel, such personal courage. Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you for having me.
You'll have a great week next week. We'll see you the week after.
Take care. I'll let you know how those trout do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fry one up for me. They're delicious. Thank you.
Take care.
All the best. Coming up at 3 o'clock, Professor John Mearsheimer. And at 4 o'clock, and I know he's anxious to come on because he's been texting Chris and me all afternoon. Who else? Max Blumenthal. Just Napolitano for Judging Freedom.